Invisible walls. A strange stigma surrounds these walls, and I do understand why, but they exist for a reason. While heralded as fun killers, these are made to be fun keepers in the long run. Well, sometimes at least. Listen, I understand they keep you out of places you want to go, and that's no fun. Usually, though, invisible walls exist because the creators want to create an awesome world, but they don't want to make a planet's worth of content just so you can have a cool backdrop, you know what I mean? But there's better and different ways to handle it. I've broken invisible walls down into 4 sections, and let me make something clear. We're not talking about gameplay mechanics like the Moais in Super Mario. The categories are the classic, story purpose, uncontrollable insanity, and meta humor. So then, let's talk. The classic form can work either really, really well or extremely poorly. For example, a game like Chrono Trigger has invisible walls, but they're usually marked by the end of a screen or a slight change in elevation. The edge of the screen trick is a super common one in side-scrollers, because what are you gonna do? Go off the screen? Yeah, right, nerd. The classic walls do work for classic games, where you don't have to do more than what is shown. But when we get a little more modern, it becomes a little worse. A grand open world, but oh wait, you can't go past this point in the Gerudo Desert for some reason. It's really tough to make a classical invisible wall work in a 3D space with a 3D camera. Sometimes though, you can make it work. Paper Mario or other games that have a locked perspective are able to get away with not letting you pass the edge of the world because they're built around the fact that you're locked in a certain area. And sometimes, if you've got a clear edge of the world, it's clear that you're not going to gain anything by going past these invisible walls except maybe endless falling. But when you're dealing with full 3D movement and camera in your control, you've got to be a little more creative with the invisible walls, which is where we tend to see more variation. Most of the time, people do other obstacles before you reach the invisible wall, but sometimes the obstacles are obstacle-y enough to feel more like a challenge than a wall, encouraging you to try to break it, you know? The biggest one 3D games use is the ocean. Most of the time, you're restricted to land, so you probably can't even bother trying to deal with the water. But if you get water powers, well, you're probably going to be disappointed by how limited the world is in the long run. But again, there's always ways to remedy the boring invisible wall. Giving the edge of the world a story purpose is a bold move, but it can work to greatly increase the engagement within the world. Detroit Become Human uses the robot concept to its fullest, which, while you're still restricted to set pieces, at least you can understand the robot side of it. Far Cry has a similar gimmick, but if you leave, you just get an ending. So the curiosity of the greater world is satisfied, because you gotta go, it's just over. A really popular gimmick I like is the wandering into the desert and coming out the way you came in. It's simple and it does destroy motivation to explore, but if those world boundaries are clear, at least it still makes sense. One I don't think I'm a big fan of though is honestly probably cliffs. Super Mario Odyssey does this a lot, where it puts the entire world on top of a small plateau or like a really tall building or something. Technically, this is no different from how they've done it in any other 3D Mario game, but usually there isn't a beautiful skybox surrounding it. I want to see the rest of New Donk. I wonder what's at the bottom of that Sand Kingdom Canyon. What the hell does the rest of Bonneton look like? It's an interesting dilemma where they've created more of an incentive to find a way around these barriers. Breath of the Wild has a similar thing, with these giant cliffs at the edge of the map. I've always been curious about what lies atop those mountains, but I'll never know because I was never supposed to go anyway. Invisible Wellfield? Really? Now? Ow, fuck! The story purpose can bleed into the uncontrollable insanity category as well, but it's a little goofier, typically. If I had to explain this, going back to the desert, basically it's when the game stops you with like a giant sandworm that eats you alive. It's goofy, it's punishing, and as long as it doesn't ruin your progress, then I feel like it's a good way to disencourage exploration. Which is a weird sentiment, huh? In games where 90% of the time you want to be engaged in exploring the world, you've got to make them lose that whimsy and wonder so they don't get so off track. Surely there's got to be a better way to do this. But I find the insanity parts to be a lot of fun a lot of the time. Getting immediately hunted down by the police or being chased by a giant demon monster, it's all crazy and it makes you feel this unstoppable intimidation. You know, it's fun. Ironically though, a lot of these monsters create more of an intrigue about the worlds they're placed in. I'm sure you've heard urban gaming legends about certain beasts in certain areas, or the unpassable demon, or even power scaling to the real opposition within these games. The people you're supposed to take seriously and not just the invincible demon that chases you if you get too close to the edge of the world. Which ironically brings more attention to the invisible walls, which I guess works in a strange way. You're more invested in the world, even while it still limits you. But then you've got the complete opposite of that. Meta humor. Meta humor is tough, because is calling something out being stupid enough to stop it from being stupid? My opinion is that most of the time, you're not funny enough to pull it off. And when it comes to barriers and roadblocks, depending on the game, it can be a huge detriment to the world. Pokemon loves their arbitrary invisible walls. Specifically, there's this one where it's just some guy telling you the power is out so you can't explore the city. Paper Mario, the Origami King, also has a few silly ones. Just holding up a sign saying I can't pass? Well, screw you! Nintendo loves their stupid, jokey, invisible walls. It does depend on the execution, though. If you're just saying, there's nothing beyond here, that's the end of the game world, dweeb, then I'm gonna be like, damn, guess the world building doesn't matter to you if you can't even give me a good reason to not walk in that direction. I much prefer when there's the Pokemon reasoning, where yes, it's incredibly stupid, but it's also really, really funny. I love the ants in Mother 3 who just block your path for some reason. I love the dancing men in Pokemon Black and White who just are there. Like, they just go and they leave. That's it. That's their whole thing. Just make your excuses fun if they have no purpose but to stop you from going places you aren't supposed to. If you can, of course. Within the context of your story, world, whatever. Invisible walls. Something we all want to get past, but it usually requires a lot to do so. What remains beyond the edge of the world is typically not that crazy either. I mean, sure, there are some cool out-of-bounds secrets, but that's one for every 100 games. It's tough. You want the exploration in a person to be satisfied, but at the same time, you've got an artistic vision, and you don't want to feature creep on the parts of the world that aren't in that vision. What you make matters, and so does how you deal with what you don't. Expectations from the world can be fulfilled by creating an engaging piece that doesn't have people turning towards the edges of the world, but even then, there are some of us who just really feel like going the wrong way. I personally find myself in love with the out of bounds, or the places you aren't supposed to reach yet. Hey, that's where I had the most fun with Tears of the Kingdom. Thunderhead Isles. From the start, I was drawn to this crazy landmass, but I got a little distracted by the world. I did the Rito dungeon, had some fun, then got lost and started to become disillusioned with the world that really is just 90% copy and paste features. Seriously, the depths did not need to exist, not on the scale they were at least, like seriously. I remembered the Thundery Island and decided to go pay it a visit, see if I could have some fun there. Now, it wasn't difficult to get there, you just fly over from the Great Sky Island on a birdie thing, whatever those things are called. But then you're there. 3 dungeons too early and I can't see jack shit. I landed on the farthest from the destination island, like the place you're supposed to go on the island, but I didn't know that yet. To be honest, I just wanted to see if I could find something, if I could get some cool-ass secrets for exploring this cool-ass place. And this was the only time in my entirety of the time with Tears of the Kingdom where I felt as if I was using all of my tools to their full potential. I just wanted to see if it'd be worth it to keep pushing forward. Hey, I wasn't having much fun elsewhere, am I right? I didn't have the greatest items. I only had what the game had given me and some very light armor. Constant lightning strikes also prevented other items from being used, and nearly every enemy I'd encounter was a dangerous one. I learned the tech where you pull a platform out with Ultra Hand, you bring it back, rewind it, stand on top, and then ascend into the platform above. Genuinely some of the most satisfying exploration in this game, because I didn't know what the hell even awaited me. This place with the things that it didn't want me to see yet, and I mean, I genuinely couldn't see jack shit, so it kinda worked. I'm pretty sure I burnt my eyes being as close to the television as I was, but it made it so much more satisfying. Knowing that I was going somewhere they really didn't want me to be, and that itch for exploration, that itch to go beyond the intended limits, that's a feeling we've got to capitalize on. Right? Like, how do you make exploration feel like exploration and not just sightseeing the places built to be found? Why is it that breaking games and going into extremely high-level areas or beyond the world bounds brings the best memories? Exploration isn't the results, and the invisible walls, they make it feel like you're just looking for results, which, hey, they're called video games, maybe the dopamine rush works better that way, or even the story itself, it doesn't always have to be open world, man. But having more than just what needs to be can build a world so much. It's genuinely so fun. That's why out-of-bounds secrets, anti-piracy screens, and the world of mysteries beyond what should be are so damn cool. Exploration should be rewarded. But at the same time, there ain't nothing in the Gerudo Desert, you dweeb. You already saw it all. More desert cannot be that interesting. Oh. Oh. Cool. There's that difficult exploration I was looking for. Oh my god, why'd I even say that? Oh my... Well, I gotta start climbing. See you later, all.